Hi, welcome to my podcast. I'm Erica, also known as Zanaoria12 on Ravelry, Twitter. Yeah, Ravelry and Twitter, and then Zanaoria Windshines on Instagram and here on YouTube. Zanaoria Chimes on Snapchat, but I don't really do much with that. And I'm just me, Erica Connell, on Facebook. So seek me out if you're interested in connecting with me other than through my podcast. This podcast is about my fiber crafting. I am a multi-craft jewel crafter here in Southwest Florida in the United States. And this is my place where I scream into the void. I tell the internet about what I'm working on, and I try to do it every week. So far it's been every 2 weeks, but we'll see how things progress. This week, or these last 2 weeks, I've been really focused on my cross stitch. I haven't really wanted to do much else, so that's mostly what I have for you today. It's going to be a pretty short episode, I think. I don't have any knitting because I didn't do any knitting for the last couple of weeks. I do have some crochet. In a previous episode, maybe the previous episode, I talked about the child from The Mandalorian, the Baby Yoda doll that everybody wanted to make, and then the pattern got pulled down. I have the pattern. So I started him. This is his head. As you can see, it's going to be a rather sizable doll, and I'm excited about that because it'll make him, it means he's going to be huggable. But this is his head, his whole body, actually, because unlike the Mattel toy, this Baby Yoda, you actually make an entire body and then you make the clothes to put on him. So it's Buttercream Luxe Craft from Joann's, big box store here in the United States. And it's Joann's bulky weight alpaca. I think it's alpaca and acrylic. Yeah, 80% acrylic, 20% alpaca. So it's alpaca, but barely. It does give it a nice fuzz, and it's very soft. I went up one size from the recommended hook. So I think it called for an H and an I, and I'm using an I and a J. Something like that. I can't remember. I should have written this down, but I didn't. So there's Baby Yoda's head. Got down to the neck, and then from here you do like the shoulders and stuff. I was waiting to get... I stopped because I needed to do his eyes. So I had to order safety eyes, and I had to order felt for backing on the safety eyes. So I have those things. I can put his eyes together now and install them, stuff his head, and then continue on with the body. So that'll be what I do next. The only thing I don't like about crocheting stuffed toys is that you do have to have a tighter gauge to make sure the stuffing doesn't come out. And because the gauge is so tight, my hands were actually quite sore. I did this in one day, and my hands were really, really sore for a couple days afterwards. So I just kind of used that as my excuse not to crochet for a few days, and then I didn't knit for a while. I was using my daily decision app to decide what crafts I was working on, and it came up as cross stitch one day, and I just never looked back. And now, since it's May, I'm deep into Stitch Maynia, and all I want to do is cross stitch, which is a wonderful thing to have happen at the same time that it's Stitch Mania, and that's all I want to do. So I'm taking advantage of that and just working on my cross stitch projects. I have the Daily Decision app. I have another spinner that's all of my cross stitch projects, so I can pick what to work on from day to day. And I've kind of stuck to it. One day it told me to work on Chinese Zodiac, but I don't have the second clue for that yet, so I can't work on it. One of them, I think yesterday, told me I needed to work on the Animal Almanac, so I actually did. Pulled that out. I don't know how much of this I've done since my last recording, but you can see I did most of the white. There's like a little patch of white that has to go in still. I put his beak on here, his beak's on there, and his little foot claws. I guess they're feet, aren't they? Penguins have webbed feet. They have feet. So I got his feet and his beak. There's a little green strip here in the snow that went in yesterday. But that's all I did because I was working on some other stuff that I found myself getting involved with. I finished my Death Star. I think in the last episode I hadn't even started it yet, so I'm really excited I can show you guys a completely finished project. So here's my Death Star on black 14 count Aida that I got on Amazon, and I'm looking at this backwards right now. I know it flips when I post this video. So ceci n'est pas une lune, so this is not a moon, right? So it's a parody of the Magritte painting Trahison des Images, which says ceci n'est pas une pipe, and then there's a pipe. Also, Han Solo's quote, they're all in the Millennium Falcon together, right? That's no moon. So it's a lovely parody of those two things, my favorite painting and one of my favorite geekdoms. So I had to make it. And I actually bought the black fabric because I needed black fabric to do this piece. And it was a really quick stitch because it's only like 5 colors. And the green you only do here. Honestly, the most annoying part was the little stars. And there's the back, because I have to show you what I did to make those stars work. I didn't want to do one stitch and cut it, one stitch and cut it, one stitch and cut it. I feel like there must be a technique for doing single out in the middle of nowhere stitches, but I never learned that technique, so that's what I did. And as you can see, I worked my way around. I actually did the words at the same time and then went back up. So probably not the most efficient use of my white thread, but I'm very happy with how it turned out, and I have to figure out how to frame it. This whole piece of fabric is 5.5 by 5.5. But I don't have any. I was looking for a 5-inch hoop because I thought that 1/2 inch would give me just enough leeway to frame it in a hoop, and they had 3, 4, and 6 at Joann's in the cheap bamboo ones. I haven't gone to Michael's, so I don't know what Michael's has. The plastic ones, I think they had a 5, but I didn't want to pay for the plastic one to just frame it. So I have to do some research and decide what I'm going to do. But that's actually done. I just need to frame it. A couple of days ago, when I started using the spinner to tell me which project to cross stitch on, it came up with Greetings from the Parks, which is one of 2 national parks themed designs from the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. And I have the kits for them, so which is why it's on the list. And I pulled out Greetings from the Parks, and I basically just finished, let's see if I can turn this right. I just finished this one. This is the first block that came up. Each clue had 2 blocks in it, but the first one was Grand Tetons, and then Arches goes over here, but I haven't started Arches yet. So I worked on that for a little while, and then I just decided to finish Grand Tetons before I put it away, so that one's done. I'll start Arches the next time I'm called to work on this one. It's really interesting because there's not a lot of, this is, to me, seems very full, it's full coverage, right? We have this little block here. Frosted Pumpkin doesn't do a lot of full coverage designs. They're, you know, there tends to be space between the motifs, and there's going to be space between these, but we've got these like full coverage postcards of the different national parks, and I love the feeling of a full coverage design. I can't explain it, but and I like the trees. They kind of look 3D, and the perspective's really great. I just love this so much. I'm looking forward to doing the rest of them, but I was really happy with how this turned out. This one was interesting because it's kind of a dark fabric. I bought a headlamp. I'm not even kidding. I bought an Energizer. It's got like an elastic band and this LED headlamp with 3 settings off and then 2 brightness settings. And you can angle it and it clips into place so I can sit and adjust it to however I need it to be when I'm sitting. It is a lifesaver. The thing was $8 on Amazon, and I am so happy I bought it because it makes it so much easier to see when I'm working on linen. This is 28 count Lugana from Picture This Plus, and I forget what the colorway is. Spice, I think. Spice. 28 count Lugana. So 28 count can be a little rough on the eyes, but having that headlamp really made it easier to see the holes. So between that and my Q-snap, getting it really nice and tight, I was able to stitch it fairly easily. So there's that. Okay, so I went through, when I was going through my bin, trying to find the projects that I was supposed to be working on, I found others that I kind of forgot I had been working on, or I was really close to finishing. And I found a bag of leftover flosses from projects that I had finished a long time ago. So I went through it and reorganized it because I want to have a better handle on partial skeins that I still have left, so that when I go to do another project, I don't buy a new skein. I can use what I already have and try not to end up with a lot of leftovers that I never touch, because that's just dumb and it's wasteful. So I was going through stuff, and when I went through stuff, first I found a Christmas pattern that I did. I started. This is the Tiny Christmas Stitchalong from Armada Designs. I can't remember if it's Christmas 2017 or 2018, but it's been a couple of years now. And I got stuck here at the end. So look at the bottom there. You see the gingerbread house? In the original design, it's a church. And I know Christmas is a religious holiday when you use that word, but I kind of treat it as a secular holiday. You know, I do the Santa Claus and the snowmen and the snowflakes, and I'm not religious at all. So for me, it's not a holiday that involves church. So like other people who were doing this stitch along, I changed out for the gingerbread house on the bottom, and that was fine. That worked out really well for me, and I was really happy with it. And then we got down to the top, and there's a giant star with 2 angels with trumpets. And I was like, okay, I have very little experience or knowledge of how to alter a pattern, how to make up a pattern, how to make something work for me. Like, the gingerbread house is not my design. Somebody else came up with that and was kind enough to post the chart in the Tiny Christmas Stitch Along group on Facebook, and I just yoinked it. So that's kind of what I did for this top part above the ribbon. The regular pattern has Santa's sleigh with 3 reindeer, 2 angels, and a star. So I was looking at some other people's designs and what they did, and they did stuff with the reindeer, they did regular stars, and they just left the angels out. So I added a couple of more reindeer, and I'm gonna fill in, since this is a circular design, I'm gonna fill in right here. I'm just gonna put a whole bunch of yellow stars in different sizes and shapes and just fill that out so it looks like the night sky. Probably put a couple over here. This is one of my Christmas needle minders from Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery, because those are most of my needle minders at this point. But yeah, I did the reindeer and the sleigh last night. It took me an hour maybe to do all of that, so I think putting some stars in isn't going to take me very long, and then I can call this one done. This is on 11 count Aida. I got this at a local thrift store. Big roll of it. And it's really soft. Like, it's like breadcloth material. If you've ever cross-stitched a breadcloth, I suspect it might be that monk's cloth stuff, but I don't know. It's 11 count though, so I kind of had this idea that I was going to do the Clouds Factory giant Harry Potter design with it. I don't know if I have enough, because on 11 count I would need an even bigger piece of fabric than the 14 count calls for. but we'll see. I was really happy to see that I wasn't that far off from finishing. I just needed to like kind of fill in that area, and the reindeer went up really quickly last night, so maybe next week I'll have a finish for you guys. The other thing I've been working on, and this is actually what I've spent most of the last 2 weeks stitching on, I have always wanted to try other kinds of embroidery besides cross stitch, and you know, that's great. You can do so much with a needle and string. It's amazing. And I got myself into a Facebook group for Blackwork Embroidery enthusiasts, and I'm a really big fan of Blackwork Embroidery in general. I think it's beautiful. Additionally, there's kind of a historic thing that goes along with it. I'm a huge nerd for the Tudors in England, the Tudor history, Henry VIII, on down through his kids. His first wife, Catherine of Aragon, was apparently rather adept at blackwork embroidery, so much so that she used to do the embellishment on his shirts. Even after he ditched her and sent her off to the woods to, you know, die alone, she was still making pieces of blackwork embroidery for his shirts, and he was still taking them because she was so good at it. And I don't know, there was always sort of that implication that maybe Anne Boleyn wasn't so good at it. I don't know, but he continued wanting her embroidery skills on his shirts, and I don't know, there's something really beautiful about that. But being a Tudor nerd and knowing that this was a craft that was done at the time, I wanted to get involved. And there's this company called, I think it's just a single designer, but Peppermint Purple, and she's doing a 52-week, you know, a weekly Stitchalong blackwork sampler. And I thought, this is a great time to learn a new craft, and this is a great project to learn how to do it, because each piece is so small. So what I did was I got myself a piece of 14 count Aida. This is the light oatmeal Charles Craft 15 by 18 piece. And then I worked out all the framing. So there's 52 spots there, one for each week. And then when I finished the outer frame, I had a long strand of thread left and I didn't want to cut it. So I went ahead and started on my chosen border. This was designed by Candy. I don't know if it's Candy or Cindy Cox, who's in the Peppermint Purple Stitchalong group on Facebook. She posted her border, and it's this gorgeous, reasonably simple, but gorgeous Celtic braid that goes all the way around. There's a motive here and a motive here, and then the corners have big Celtic knots. And I loved how it looked. And everybody did. There were so many comments. Oh my gosh, your border is so beautiful. Can I use it? Can I use it? Can I use it? She ended up posting her graph paper where she designed it. So I yoinked that. So thank you, Candy or Cindy. Oh gosh, I really need to find out what your name actually is because I feel bad now. But you'll see, this is the first week. I haven't done it yet. Yesterday when I was going through my leftover threads and trying to figure out what I had that I hadn't used up, 3 of the colors were available, like immediately available to me in cleaning those up. And I said, ooh, before I put these away, I'm going to go ahead and stitch those squares. So I did weeks 2, 3, and 4. And that's 2, 3, and 4. And they're just, you know, a simple filler design. This is 8/15, 8/16, and this is 4/98, all DMC. My border and framing is all 310, so it's just black. I need to dig up this is 8/15, 8/16. I need 8/14 for the first one. I think it's going to be a rainbow gradient from top to bottom. We're only up to week 19, which is this long one here. And so far, it's been like reds and pinks and purplies. It's fading into purples. So I don't know what it's gonna, I mean, she gives us a color chart so I could look it up and figure out what it's gonna look like by the end, color-wise, but, yeah, it stitches really quickly. These fills that I did all 3 of these yesterday. They don't take very long, which is really nice. Cross stitch sometimes can take a really, really long time. But blackwork, you're using one color, so you use one strand. So you make a really long strand. It's all back stitches. So I feel like it just works faster and you don't have to change colors, and isn't it pretty? I love it. I can't wait. I mean, I don't want this to be done because, I mean, I'm behind as it is, but I don't want it to be done because then I'll have to find a new project, but at the same time, I can't wait until it's done because it's going to be so pretty when it's done. Yay. So that's my Blackwork embroidery. I'll put links and stuff in the description like I always do. I think I'm gonna find the colors that I need to fill those in for the rest, up to caught up, and then from there I'll just, when I need to do something else, I'll just grab a long strand of black and work on the border, because obviously I have the rest of the year to get the border done. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've done for the last 2 weeks. I mean, I'm doing other things. I'm playing Animal Crossing, so I'm working on that. And I'm watching a lot of TV. Still trying to get through the backlog from when I was actively in school and actively working, and I just didn't have time to watch anything, so we're trying to get caught up on stuff. Haven't touched my violin yet. Already need to cut my nails again before I can even try. And yeah, it's amazing. It feels like I have done nothing. But that's not true. I am stitching a lot. It's just, I don't know. It feels like I should have more things done by now, and maybe that's something I need to look into figuring out. But I'm really happy with, I'm happy with my progress because I am making visible progress. So I should be good with that. All of my knitting and spinning friends are working on a shawl together, and I said I would do it too, and I never even picked out yarn. I really should pull that out. I just haven't felt like knitting. And when I do want to knit, it's either the Hue Shift blanket, which I still have going, or I really want to do color work. And the color work situation, I have several color work projects on the go. One of them is actually a pair of mittens, the Sea Mineral mittens from Spilly Jane. They're on Ravelry. It's one of her free patterns. Spilly Jane is an amazing color work designer. She does socks and mittens, and if you want them on mittens, you can get a pattern. I mean, it's the number of designs she has and the kitschy, like, fun design. She's got one that's called Beer Flight. I think it's called Beer Flight. And the color work pattern is pints of beer in different colors, which I think is amazing. But these Sea Mineral mittens are all over color work too, and they just happen to be free. I want to finish them. I will never use them because I live in Florida, unless I don't know, move to Sweden or something. I probably won't get to wear a lot of mittens, but they're really pretty. And the needles that I'm using are my signature ones, which is the 2.25 millimeter needles. And if you've ever used a signature knitting needle, you know how pointy they are and how wonderful they are. And they're my favorite sock needles. Except they're stuck in a mitten pattern and I haven't finished. So I need to finish my mittens so I can have my sock needles back and maybe make some more socks. I'm looking at the stacks of bins over there that have my yarn in them, and there's 3 bins right here that are all sock yarn. Self-striping, Knit Picks Felici, and my hands are practically itching because I need to make socks, and the best needles are in those mittens. So I may have some progress on those to show you. next week because I pulled that project out to work on it when I get into the mood. I know that I'm on the first, pretty sure I'm only on the first mitten. I don't think I finished the first one. And I'm at or around the point where I have to separate stitches for the thumb and then do the body of the hand. So I have to figure out where I am. The good news is mittens are quick projects. Other than the thumb stuff that you have to do, you don't really do a lot of shaping until you get to the end. So they're really quick projects, and I'm a fast knitter anyway, and color work is really fast. I'm not as fast as, I mentioned Sweden before. Scandinavian knitters do a lot of color work, and they're experts at it, and if you watch them knitting, it's mesmerizing how fast they can knit color work. And I knit pretty quickly, and I knit with one color in each hand, so I've got a pretty good rhythm and speed going, but they're just wizards, and I want to be them someday. So that's ridiculous. I'd love to be able to knit that fast doing color work, because there's the list of color work projects I want to do is pretty long. Speaking of pretty long, there's my cross stitch for the week, 2 weeks. Saw Baby Yoda. I don't really have anything else to talk about this week. I will try to remember to record next week. I really, really will. I want to do this once a week, not every 2 weeks, because then I start to feel bad about not updating. So that's it for this week, and I will be back next week, probably on Thursday. That's the goal. And have a good crafty week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.